You've worked hard for your money, but do you know how to make it work hard for you? You need a team with experience, vigilance, and a strategy to help you live the retirement you deserve. Find your financial safe haven with Haven Financial Group today. You're listening to the new and improved Haven Financial Group radio show, where we bring you comprehensive weekly financial wisdom from the professionals. It's all about helping you solve retirement problems so you can make your nest egg last. You're tuned to the Haven Financial Group radio show with your host, Larry Colvig and Kim Carrigan, your guides to weekly retirement confidence. If you're interested in protecting and growing what you have, let us be your financial safe haven. The phone lines are always open at 612-504-8400. Now, get your financial questions ready because the Haven Financial Group radio show starts now.
Good morning, and thanks for listening to the Haven Financial Group radio show. I'm Larry Colvig, founder and CEO of the Haven Financial Group, on with my co-host, Kim Carrigan. Kim, great to be with you. A lot to talk about this week. I encourage listeners to give us a call at 612-504-8400 or havenfinancialgroup.com. Lots of great tools on there. Kim, great to be with you again.
It is great to be with you as well, my friend. We are going to talk about owning your retirement readiness. I think a lot of people, don't know if they're ready or not. And I think probably the biggest question most people have as they put together a plan or if they are starting to implement the plan is, have I prepared enough and do I have enough money? Would you agree?
100%. The biggest questions we get, you said it. Do I have enough money to retire? When can I retire? Or Larry, when do I run out of money? Is it 75 or 95? Kind of important questions as you get close to the new plan for retirement.
Most definitely. So that's why this week we're going to talk a little bit about retirement readiness. We're going to get started by actually talking about that retirement readiness overview. We're going to kind of take the big, sky view, and then we'll break it down a little bit further. Retirement ages to tailor your financial timeline. That'll give you an idea and a rough idea of where maybe you should be at certain times, keeping in mind, as Larry so often says, your retirement is your retirement. It's individualized, but certainly we can give some generalities, answering your retirement income questions, and then finally, cost predictions and cost reductions. They, of course, depend on you. And again, Larry, that goes back to that idea that everybody's retirement is an individual situation. But let's talk about, just being prepared, like an overview. Give us an idea a little bit about what you talk with your clients to see where they are in the process.
Well, I think it's important to establish some statistics here that there's, 12 to 14,000 Americans turning 65 every day, every single day. A lot of people in this age group. And there's a lot of concern out there because the Trans-America Center for Retirement Studies found that 52% of people that responded to the study plan to retire after age 65 or not retire at all, which is very interesting. Approximately 33% of Americans reported using all their savings during the pandemic or when the pandemic was going on and everything, 2021, 2022.
Mhm.
That doesn't bode well for retirement. That creates a lot of uncertainty. So, this show, Retirement Readiness, very broad spectrum, okay? It requires having clearly defined goals. Not everybody has that. Goal making or goal searching is not something everybody likes to do. They have goals, but they don't write them down. Timelines. We'll talk about some major timelines in this show. What those are, why they're important. What is your strategy? What tools are you using? Who's helping you? Navigating through all these different retirement puzzle pieces, which is what we do at Haven Financial Group. Not just one of them, but all of them, because it all encompasses retirement. From the investments to the insurance to the health care to the Medicare to the long-term care to the taxes and prep and planning. It's all part of retirement readiness. We're going to talk about, do you have a pension? Do you have annuities? Again, all this may sound overwhelming, overcomplicated. You don't have to be the expert if you're listening, but you should be getting the attention you deserve. And that's the things that we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I mean, this is the part that I think you try to stress each and every week to everyone. You only retire once. You don't necessarily know all the ins and outs. You don't have to be the expert. That's why we're inviting people to call Haven Financial Group and sit down for a free consultation with a member of the team and talk to a true expert about all of these issues related to retirement. By the way, that number is 612-504-8400. 612-504-8400. You give the folks at Haven Financial Group a call and set up a free consultation. Go in and sit down and chat with them about some of the things that you're going to hear as we continue this radio show. So let's talk a little bit more, some of the benchmarks that we probably would want to hit along the way.
Yeah, you mentioned retiring once. Most people want to retire just once. If you're coming out of retirement, I hope it's because you got really bored with retirement, which we hear once in a
Mhm.
while. Oh, retirement was so boring, I had to go back to work. Unfortunately, if you have to go back into the workforce, maybe that's because you didn't plan well enough, and those are the things we want to avoid. There's it seems like some big numbers out there that you should aim to have 80 to 90% of your pre-retirement yearly income to maintain your lifestyle and keep up with expenses. That might be a big number. It might sound like a big number. Maybe it is a big number. Um, this often translates to saving approximately 12 times your pre-retirement salary. Again, maybe a big number, depending upon your circumstances, depending upon your expenses. Ask yourself, where is your income going to come from? And this is where we really hone in on. What will your social security be? When, why, and how? Are you blessed to have a pension? Many don't or won't. Those that do, they're going to like that. It's
Mhm.
income. What other mailbox money are you going to have coming in? Ask yourself these things. What rate of return is going to be required to maintain the level that you need to maintain your lifestyle through retirement? When
Mhm.
will that money run out? What costs can you cut? We always encourage, and even personally, my wife and I look at, the expenses. They always want to the companies always want to take care of those that are coming in that are new, but not so much when you've been there for 25, 30 years, which my wife and I are very loyal. But sometimes it makes shopping out insurances, cell phones, a variety of regular everyday expenses to make
Sure.
sure you're getting the best deal possible. You might be surprised. What other types of accounts do you have? Savings, checking. What are some benchmarks? What's your goals? If you're not to retirement yet, a couple came in from Rosemount here a couple weeks ago. They had met with me, a few years ago, and time went by quickly. COVID got thrown in there. Well, we were talking about what do you have saved for retirement, which, by the way, they're really close. And we're very blessed to be helping them now. And they said, well, Larry, we got about 100,000 in savings. I'm like, that's textbook. And they go, well, that's because that's what you told us to have 2 years ago. And I'm like, wow, you actually listened. And he's like, yeah, she was very disciplined because Larry said that, and that's what we did. I'm like, wow, I wish more would heed that advice. So
Like your kids.
that's another fulfilling part of doing this job. So again, talking through all these things is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Is it really important when someone is putting together their retirement plan that they actually have a pegged age and date that they are gonna retire?
Yes, but still maintaining flexibility. These are
Okay.
where life happens. A lot of time, well, I'm going to retire at 65, and unfortunately, they get a pink slip or health creeps into the situation. It has to be a plan that's flexible, that can be modified. We want a plan, and we do in our projections long term, 20, 30 years out. We want to plan for the long run and pray and hope for the best. But again, plan for the worst because if you plan for the worst and things are much better, well, the picture is much more rosier. But allowing for things in there, that's why it's important to really hone in and have a budget on those expenses. What is your actual target retirement date? What does it look like if you retire a couple years earlier, a couple years later? We're going to factor those in the planning process. It's going to all
Mhm.
be part of the discovery, coming up with recommendations, implementations. It sounds confusing and overwhelming, but it's something that we hold people's hand through year in and year out
Mhm.
because, things happen. Do you want to travel? Let's buffer in that. Excuse me. Do you need a new car into the equation? All these different things, long-term care, etc. It's important to really have an accurate budget.
So, Larry, having said all that, when someone is planning, all their life for retirement, so they're putting their money in the 401ks and they're doing all the things that they're supposed to do along the way, but now they're ready to really start to put together a plan to understand how they're going to draw once they get to retirement, to understand how they may change their investments to not be as risky. At what point should someone start that kind of planning? At what point should they sit down with a member of your team? How far out prior to the date they've chosen for retirement?
Well, I'm going to say you should start planning for retirement as soon as you have the ability to put money away for retirement. The power of compounding is pretty powerful. So, again, start as early as possible saving for retirement. Now, the actual retirement planning process,
Right.
in addition to talking about all the factors, I would say for sure, again, by 55, for sure.
Okay.
And when I say that, there are all the different pieces, Social Security, having those discussions. It's, you can never get
Hmm.
educated too early. I always like to see 50, 55-year-olds at our classes, and we do.
Hmm.
They want to learn, they're proactive, and it's much better to be proactive than reactive, even though the human discipline and the human nature is to react rather than proact. So again, it's never too early. But again, if you're dealing some timelines, which we're going to get into,
Hmm.
healthcare, we get a lot into bridging the gap for healthcare. You're not to 65 yet before Medicare, which I will point out, annual enrollment is coming for Medicare. Glenn and Isabella we do lots of healthcare and Medicare. Everybody should shop it out. Have somebody do the work for you. Annual enrollment is coming up here the middle of the month through December 7th. And uh, complacency sets in very easy for people. Well, I've got it, and we're good, and we're good. Well, there's a lot of changes coming to Medicare. First of all, you need to get up to date on those changes. You may
Right.
not make change. We're not out making people make changes just for the sake of making changes.
Yep.
But there's some statistics out there that people end up wasting money, spending money on healthcare or Medicare, and it's not the best thing because they've never priced it out or they never shopped it out. Have somebody do the work for you. Don't have somebody sell you something. Be careful what you hear on TV or the paid spokespeople. Probably not even accurate in the state you're living in. Again, looking at all these different things. So at least 55, and there's other timelines. So earlier, the better.
Well, let's talk about some of those other timelines when we come back on the other side of the break. But beforehand, just a quick reminder Haven Financial Group, you can reach them at 612-504-8400 or havenfinancialgroup.com. All right, Larry, when we come back, let's take a look specifically at some of those financial timelines and some of those dates that folks should sketch down and remember. You're listening to the Haven Financial Group radio show.
Don't go too far. We're gathering more important insights and retirement wisdom. The Haven Financial Group radio show will be right back. Stick around. You've got questions, we've got answers. You're tuned to the Haven Financial Group radio show with your host, Larry Kolvig and Kim Carrigan. Now, back to the show.
Good morning, and once again, welcome to the Haven Financial Group radio show. Thanks for listening. Give us a call, ask us questions. 612-504-8400 or havenfinancialgroup.com, where every week we talk about retirement, all the different pieces to retirement, everything that's going on in this economy, what you can do, can't do, or should do. Again, Kim, great to be with you again this week.
It's great to be with you as well. Larry, birthdays are fun when you're 21 and when you're 25, and it's even exciting when you turn 30 because you really feel like an adult. Then people sort of go, well, I'm really finished having birthdays. I don't think I'll have any more. But it's important, and especially as you start to approach retirement, to start thinking about your birthday, how old you're turning, and what kind of things and deadlines might need to be met on those birthdays. So let's talk a little bit, starting with some people may be shocked, but you talked about this in the segment before. 49. 49 is the first one that you really need to start to pay attention.
Yeah, as I mentioned earlier, 49 or earlier. Okay, start saving to take advantage of compounding returns. The earlier you get in there, you can run numbers and you go, wow, if only I had put X amount of
Mm.
dollars early, what that number may look like later. It sounds way too good to be true. You say, I don't have enough money. I know it's a balancing act. Things are expensive. You have kids. Oh my goodness. And then they go to college. I'm speaking from experience. If it sounds like it, I am. But at the end of the day, whatever you can put in there earlier, the earlier the better. Then, of course, maybe you get to 50. And by the way, within the last couple of weeks, I just turned double nickels for all the listeners that wanted to know how old I was. Now it's out in the open. There you go. Okay, yes. So after 50, you got those catch-up contributions. You can start putting a little bit more away, and it's called catch-up for a reason. You got a little behind. Now you can start to catch up. Take advantage of that. It allows you to get more pre-tax money into those, or even Roths into those, to take advantage of. Make sure you take advantage of that. If you're not, you're missing opportunity. 55. I'm a little cautious on this one. It's true that at 55, based on circumstances, you might be able to take money out if you leave your job. But be careful. Make
Of
sure
your
you're getting
401k is what you're saying.
out of those pre-tax
Right.
401ks. Yes. Oftentimes there's penalties before that. You don't want to do that. It is penalty free potentially, but know the ins and outs of what you're doing. First
Mhm.
of all, we don't encourage anything taking out of 401ks or IRAs that early. It's retirement account specific, but I understand life happens. Just be careful.
Yeah, can you think of a scenario under which you could take money out and it wouldn't be penalized?
Well, there's something out there called a 72T, and you wouldn't be penalized, but there's rules and regulations that go with that. And I don't come across it, or we don't come across it too often.
Yeah.
I just be very cautious. Hopefully, you don't have to take anything
Yeah,
until well after 55.
you bet. 59 and a half. What happens then?
That's for us. That's a big one that we
Yeah.
see quite a bit. Now, you may not be retiring at 59 and a half, but there's a reason why the federal government says at 59 and a half, you have options. You're getting closer to retirement, and they allow, in most cases and most plans, rollovers of 59 and a half in service 59 and a half rollovers, which in essence just means you can explore all investment options even outside of your 401k, whether you're working or not, without any penalties, without any tax consequences. Now, why would you do that? Well, just this last week, I had two IT consultants, husband and wife. They jump around a lot, and they each had 4 or 5 different old 401ks. We call it orphan 401ks,
Mhm.
and they're not even working there or contributing anymore. Well, things don't have to be that complicated. They rolled all of them into one IRA and simplified things, and life's going to be much more simple. I just had somebody that still works for 3M and built up a very healthy 401k account. 41 years, in fact, in 3M, and she's going to be retiring fairly soon. She didn't want nor need all the risk exposure, so she took a big chunk of that and did an in-service 59 and a half rollover into an investment vehicle that was safer, where the principal was protected, and it's allowable with no tax implications and no costs.
Right.
Explore those options. You don't have to, but 59 is a pretty key number.
Yeah, 59 and a half, folks. Let's turn to 62 because this is the earliest that you can collect Social Security. Now, that's not always the best avenue, and that's something that I think a lot of people need to be educated about, when to start to draw.
Which is exactly why we do lots of Social Security classes. Visit our website. You can see all of them coming up. Maximize Social Security and tax classes. They're very, very well attended. Workbooks and materials are all provided. There's no cost. It's very educational. And if you come in after those, you literally will walk out with your own individual Social Security report, good,
Mhm,
better, best, as to what makes sense. Do you turn it on at 62? Yes, no, why, or why not?
mhm.
Do you wait till full retirement age? That's based on your birthday. For most people, that's 66 to 67. Or do you wait till 70, which is the furthest you're going to wait? Does that make
Mhm,
sense? Yes, no, why,
mhm.
maybe, still working, maybe a spousal situation. And a lot of times people have their idea, I'm going to turn it on here, and this is why. Yet in the conversation with us, they realize that is not a good decision. Yet Kim, 60 to 70% of Americans turn on Social Security right away at 62, and only 1 to 2% of Americans wait till 70. That tells me there's a lack of education, which is specifically why we do a lot of education so people can make educational decisions rather than split decisions based upon what their neighbor or friend did, which oftentimes is not the best decision.
And then, of course, Larry, 65, and along with that comes Medicare.
Yeah, which is
And then
exactly why I said it's annual enrollment coming up. 65.
yeah.
Now, maybe you didn't make it to 65 and you retired earlier. We help people look at MNsure, Minnesota, MNsure, and all the various other healthcare plans that are out there. But for sure, when you get to 65, now there's a lot of misconceptions out there. If you're still working and have credible coverage, you may not or may not want to turn on Part A, which a lot of people say will think that at 65 everybody has to turn it on at 65. That's simply not true. So
Mhm.
get educated. Again, come on in and talk Medicare. Look at all the options, shop it out every year, not because it's so fun to do, but have somebody work for you. You're going to pay the exact same whether you try to do it alone or have somebody work for you. And if you're working with a captive, not saying that's bad, but they're promoting maybe one company, you should be looking at all the companies. Glenn and Isabella, one of the top Medicare people in the state of Minnesota, they always say the first time you visit with somebody, there shouldn't be a discussion as to what company. It should be what's your situation? What are your prescriptions? Who are your doctors? What's the situation? There shouldn't be anything proposed as far as companies or plans until all the facts are given. And that's in a variety of different retirement areas. Let's know the facts, let's know the specifics before anybody can make a recommendation. So, healthcare is a big expense in retirement. You're going to want somebody to help you navigate, and you want to mitigate those costs as much as possible and have it customized to you because you're not probably taking the same prescriptions your neighbor or friend is. So
No, right.
situations can be very difficult or different. And look at
Mhm.
supplemental and advantage plans, which some can be zip code specific. And again, there's no perfect plan, but what's the plan specific to you? That's what's important.
So again, Medicare eligibility, it begins at 65. There no doubt are lots of questions in your mind associated with that. So that is something that maybe you want to start to plan. You want to start to get some of those questions out there and get them answered well ahead of 65 to make sure that you know the direction that you're headed in when it comes to Medicare. Certainly an important part of someone's retirement. 66 to 67 full retirement age for Social Security. Again, that is depending on your birth date.
It is based on your birthday, full retirement age, 100% of what you paid in. Again, that's where this Social Security report that if you come in, you'll get that. It's very helpful. And again, 70 is the last you're going to take it. The other major timeline and is required minimum distributions. Now, there's been
Mhm.
changes in recent years. People probably remember 70 and a half. For years, it was 70 and a half. And last year was 72. This is the age. This year, it's 73 and it goes in 8 years, it goes to age 75. This is all those pre-tax accounts that you've been putting in for years. Uncle Sam, who's not your favorite uncle, decides they want to start getting these tax revenues. You're forced to take it out. And for many people in this age group, they've done a great job creating some good sized balances in these accounts, which is great. But it's why it also can lend itself to more taxes when you get to that point. It's why we like to do tax planning in the earlier stages to minimize or reduce the expenses later on in life. That's why it's important. So, yes, you're going to be eventually have to take it out. It's based upon what's in there at the end of the year. It's a divisor, it's a percentage factored into your long term planning. We do because it can be a major income boost, whether you want it or not, because you're going to have to take it or get penalized. So I'll say this your retirement timeline is marked by these key ages. Now, things are going to be different for different people, but what you do at each point depends on your unique situation. I can't stress enough. It's not about your sister, brother, or best friend, John, or somebody else. It's you,
Mhm.
your spouse, if you're married, and your family. There's lots of tools out there that are available that many times people don't even know they're available. We look at this and tailor it to your specific situation. It's not one glove fits all. So I encourage give us a call. There's no cost to visit with us. We can be your partner on this journey, which can seem very difficult to navigate. But again, it requires some retirement vision. And this is uncharted territory for many people. It can be very, very confusing. And we'd love to be a partner along the way.
612-504-8400 is the number at Haven Financial Group. Give them a call today or check it out at havenfinancialgroup.com. We're going to answer retirement income questions. Once you have stopped going to work, but you still need an income, right? How do you get that mailbox money, as Larry likes to call it? That's coming up next right here on the Haven Financial Group Radio Show.
Ready to find your financial safe haven? Your dream retirement is in reach. Don't go away. The Haven Financial Group Radio Show will be right back. Are you worried that your financial strategy might be missing something? Well, you're in the right place. Larry Colvig is back and ready to help you find your financial safe haven.
Good morning and welcome back to the Haven Financial Group Radio Show. I'm Larry Colvig, founder and CEO of the Haven Financial Group. Visit us online at havenfinancialgroup.com or give us a call, 612-504-8400. Where every week we talk about retirement and everything that goes with it. And yes, we work all these years. We have income. The number one question I ask came over the years to people is, when you retire, what's been the most difficult thing? Resounding answer, not getting a paycheck anymore.
Yeah.
Very difficult. So how do you generate your own paycheck?
Right, exactly. I think a lot of people, that's not even something you're thinking about. You just, you think, well, I've just saved all this money. I won't need an income. I'll have this money, but there needs to be a way in which to draw the dollars that you have saved for such a long time. So let's get right to it. The first thing, of course, obviously, is Social Security. That does come in the form of a check.
It does. It does. Or direct deposit, of course, like anything nowadays. But that's why it's important to have a Social Security strategy. Do you delay? Why do you delay? Are you working part-time? Are you still working? So there's a lot of variable goes into that decision. Yes, eventually you're going to turn it on. Oftentimes, a rule of thumb, Kim, for this is if you're a married couple, maybe the lower breadwinner oftentimes turns it on earlier, and the higher breadwinner waits because that higher one's going to remain for as long as one of the two are still living.
Hmm.
So thinking about the spouse is obviously important, because I always say, do you not want to leave your spouse with as much income as possible? I would hope the answer would be yes, because that would be the only answer in case I'm missing something, perhaps. So again, does that mean you're drawing somewhere else? Are you blessed to have a pension? The income distribution tax strategy now becomes much more viable, to the
Mhm.
degree that I'll give you an example. We just had a couple in from actually Northfield. He worked at the Coke refinery, and she also just retired from as being a teacher. So now no more income, no more paychecks, but yet their Social Security they're going to delay for good reason. There's one pension involved, but it's not enough to cover the monthly expenses. We got together like we always do several times a year. In this case, Lance, our CPA, was in the meeting with me. We also had another member of the investment team. We laid out an income plan based upon their needs, but also the most efficient way to do it to make sure we're drawing from the right accounts that fit their needs in the most tax efficient way possible. If you're just going to try to wing it and start drawing unknowingly, you might be completely doing it from the wrong spot. And again, every one of those dollars, for almost everybody I visit with, it was a hard earned dollar they work for. Why? Just because you don't know, why not ask questions? Why not make sure that you're doing things in the most efficient way possible? You don't have to do it alone. We hold people's hands, not because they need their hand held. It's they just have never been in this situation before.
Sure. I think this is a perfect example of something that maybe people wouldn't be thinking about. And you just said it's really important as you start to draw income that you understand the tax ramifications. So if you start to draw off of a traditional 401k or an IRA, that may throw you into a different tax bracket and ultimately even affecting the tax on your Social Security, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, there's the provisional income formula with Social Security based on age. You're still working. How much can I still make? All of these variables that go into ultimately should go into the decision. Income. I call it mailbox money. A lot of people do. What needs to come in guaranteed to cover your expenses to maintain a high level of liquidity. I go back to there's benchmarks we like to see for liquidity, money in the bank, maintaining that. I would say, and I'll just throw it out there for a married couple in the mid to high 60s, retired completely. We like to see 50 to 100 grand in a liquid position. Some listeners might say, well, that's way too much. Why would you do that? I can give you a whole bunch of reasons. We don't have enough time. So many times people come in and they have very little liquid and everything at risk in the market. And somehow, many of them not knowing, some people knowingly, and somehow they think that's a good recipe to go into retirement. If you get lucky, maybe, but usually it's a terrible recipe for terrible circumstances and repercussions, and repercussions that most people are not going to deal with,
Mhm.
especially in retirement. So be careful, have a good understanding, look at all the different options that are out there.
So we talked about the fact that, drawing from your 401k or your IRA might change your tax situation. Let's step back a little bit further and say that, a Roth IRA, you can draw that tax free, but that money has to have been there.
I didn't hear any of the question, Kim.
Okay, hold on. Okay, am I back?
Yes.
Okay, here we go. So we've talked, Larry, about the fact that drawing from a traditional 401k or an IRA could have tax ramifications and ultimately affect your tax bracket. Drawing from a Roth IRA, however, that's tax free. But the issue that people need to understand is that that money needs to be in that Roth IRA for at least 5 years.
It does. There are rules with that 5 years before you can access any of the growth or access any of the money. And by the way, for Roth conversion, every conversion starts a 5 year time frame with that conversion. So it's
Okay.
certainly something we go over significantly. If you need the money or don't need the money, it's important to understand the ramifications. Now, conversions make perfect sense for many, many people, many that aren't even doing it. Yet we want to know, we want to point out that what are the pros, what are the cons, like there always is.
Hmm.
But it comes back to income. My wife and I will never have pensions.
Hmm.
So you look at Social Security. Where's the other income streams? Many people use annuities for income.
Hmm.
Don't have to, but they can be a very good way to guarantee lifetime income or kind of a self-directed pension. Um, we have these discussions with people who, like myself, will never have pensions. How do I create my own pension? Now it has to be fitting, because just in the last couple of weeks, I've had folks that come in, several, that are paying for income features with annuities, yet they have pensions and Social Security. They're never going to need this income, and they're paying for a feature that doesn't match their situation.
Right.
That's throwing money away, and we don't want to do that. But what's appropriate and what's not appropriate? That's the lens that we want to see things
Hmm.
through.
Hmm. And how does insurance play a role in all of this income issue?
Well, insurance, especially if you're earlier years of retirement, I have folks that retire and have done a great job for retirement. They're not 65 yet, and there's income levels, income thresholds, and if you stay below them, oh, if you stay below them, you can you can be on MNsure, you can pay reduced health care. Now,
Hmm.
some people have a hard time with that, but that's just the rules. The
Hmm.
rules are the rules. You're not creating the rules; you're abiding by the rules and just dealing with them. So, there's income levels with as it relates to health care. There's also income levels when it comes to Medicare, and this is where Glenn and Isabella help people, because with Medicare, there's a 2 year look back on what your income is, and it's a means tested program, meaning if you made more money 2 years ago, you pay more. Well, there's an IRMA release. Say, that was 2 years ago. My income isn't that now.
Right.
They'll help you walk through a release to get it reduced so you're not paying too much. So, income is related to how much you pay, means tested programs like Medicare. So, the use of insurance can be valid for other reasons as well. That's why we encourage life insurance reviews.
Hmm.
Maybe you're listening and you've held these life insurance plans for years and nobody's ever looked at them. Whoever sold it to you and is out of the business, they maybe collected their commission years ago, and they don't even talk to you anymore.
Mm.
Well, there's a lot of insurance plans out there, life insurance plans that can cannibalize or eat themselves up. And then all of a sudden you paid in or whatever, and all of a sudden you find out it's not there anymore. Get a life insurance review. We do them, and there's no cost, but you want to make sure what you have is what you think it is and doesn't surprise you negatively. And
Right.
we see it all the time. So, life insurance reviews, no cost to it. Maybe there's something better. Maybe you don't need life insurance anymore.
Mm.
Maybe there's something that fits you better, maybe with some long term care provisions or something of that nature. So, get these things reviewed. If they're dusty and been on sitting on your shelf for years or months or whatever it is, maybe it's time to look at them, making sure that it is what you thought it was, and you don't have negative surprises. Surprises aren't fun at it necessarily at any age of life, negative ones, but especially if you're in retirement.
So, Larry, I think the bottom line here is that there's lots of different options out there when it comes to income in retirement, and it's individual. It depends on what you have in your portfolio, and it depends on what direction you're headed in.
There's many components, there's many options, and we're not just trying to make this complicated just so we sound smarter, but exploring all your options and not just
Mhm.
sticking with the tools you already have or have had for 30 years, but knowing what you do have, making the most of what you have, or looking at other opportunities. So give us a call and let us explore all the options with you or help you
Mhm.
understand what you do have. Maybe it's not been explained in 20 years. Again, that will give you the confidence to know that you're doing the best you can. Somebody's paying attention. Somebody's giving you the time. And you know what? That is what makes people feel better to know, okay, now I know that somebody else other than me knows what they're talking about.
That's so, so true. Haven Financial Group, folks, at 612-504-8400. That's 612-504-8400. Call them, set up a free consultation today, or go to havenfinancialgroup.com. When we come back, cost predictions and cost reduction, that all depends on you and your situation. I know we've said it many, many times, but retirement is certainly individualized. And we're going to talk a little bit more about cost predictions and how they relate to your retirement right here on the Haven Financial Group Radio Show.
Don't go too far. We're gathering more important insights and retirement wisdom. The Haven Financial Group Radio Show will be right back. Stick around. You've got questions? We've got answers. You're tuned to the Haven Financial Group Radio Show with your hosts, Larry Kolvig and Kim Carrigan. Now, back to the show.
Good morning once again, and thank you for listening to the Haven Financial Group Radio Show. I'm Larry Kolvig, founder and CEO of the Haven Financial Group. Feel free to give us a call at 612-504-8400 or havenfinancialgroup.com. See the calendar of educational events, all the classes that we have coming up, some great calculators, retirement tools, some really fun stuff, recipes even. How about that? Again, visit us at havenfinancialgroup.com. Again, in retirement sounds complicated, maybe complicated, maybe you don't know, maybe it's been sitting on your plan has been sitting on the shelf. You don't have a plan, don't know if you have a plan, what your strategy is. That's why we're here, and there's no cost to come in and visit.
Yes, let's talk a little bit about predicting what your costs are going to be in retirement and then trying to implement those costs. I mean, this is a very difficult thing, and nobody is going to know exactly what the economy is going to do, what changes in your life might be. So, Larry, I know your team, you guys just sit down and you try to after exploring and getting to know someone, you try to lay out what you think those costs might be, starting no doubt with healthcare because that's one of the biggest expenses in retirement.
Yeah, healthcare is oftentimes underestimated. I would say majority of the time it's underestimated, and then people go, "Oh my goodness, I didn't know it was going to be that much for
Right.
Medicare or healthcare or maybe dental or all the other eyeglass wear or whatever." You throw it all into the equation, and people go, "Oh my goodness," and it really can create a strain if you don't plan for it, budget for it. So don't underestimate it. Look at all the options. Don't become complacent. Shop it out. And long-term care, Kim, is not healthcare. You know,
Right.
uh, $10,000 to $15,000 a month, depending upon what type of care, nursing home care. Nobody wants to talk about it. I get it. Anybody listening that is dealing with mom or dad or aunts or uncles or somebody in the family knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's painstaking. It takes time. It can be very difficult and very costly. It can decimate a hard earned money or an estate quickly. Do you have long term care? Have you looked at all the options of long term care? Not because everybody can afford it. Right away, people are going to be listening and think, oh my goodness, he's trying to sell long term care. No. But maybe you looked at a Cadillac long term care plan 10 years ago and nobody in their right mind could ever afford it, anyways. And then there's increases in premiums and da 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 da. There's much different plans out there now than there used to be.
Right.
Asset based long term care, utilization of some bucket of money that you're maybe not going to use to offset maybe a 2 or 3 time multiplier. Annuities that have long term care riders or longevity riders for the fear of outliving, inflationary riders, job loss and injury riders. And when I say these riders, oftentimes, not always, riders can come as an added expense. Understand what that means. Talk through the pros and the cons and the ins and the outs. They can be very cost effective if used properly, especially if you have different types of money, qualified or non-qualified money, pre-tax or after-tax. It depends. There's some really attractive ones out there. Even if you think you're self-funding for long-term care, there might be a better way to hedge against that with things that I'm discussing right now. But again, not anymore for a conversation today. Come on in and visit with Glenn or Isabella
Hmm.
about those options to see if it's feasible. I always say nothing's for everybody, but if you've never explored the options or been educated, then how do you know? You might be very much impressed with some changes to that type of um, coverage, if you will, especially if you've never looked at it. So look at all these options. Yes, they can carry costs, but understand what's out there and look at those options.
So healthcare costs and long-term care costs, they are certainly some big expenses in retirement. But one of the things that people really need to budget for, it seems to me, is just the everyday emergencies. I mean, the fact of the matter is the refrigerator goes out, a storm comes through and tears off shingles on the roof, you name it.
You hit the nail on the head. It's why earlier I said we like to see for mid 50 to 100 grand liquid. Sounds ridiculous, but you said it. Air conditioning, whatever it might be. Grandkids' birthdays. You have a whole bunch of grandkids, and there's always something. There's always something, and if you don't have it in that type of account, you might be forced to sell stock or sell something. And if the markets are down, now you're doing something counterintuitive what you should be doing. That's why it's so important to maintain a high level of liquidity, have a good balance. Don't have all of your money, unless you're a high stakes gambler and it doesn't bother you. Don't have all your money at risk in the market. Again, I mentioned earlier, I just cringe every time I hear a couple say, well, we have 5 to 10,000 in the bank and we have 500,000 all at risk in the market or whatever the number is. It doesn't matter. It's just, there's not a balance there. And to many people that we visit with, it's not their fault. They just don't know.
Right.
And they always, what's the saying? What you don't know can't hurt you. Well, maybe not hurt you, but it can hurt your pocketbook. It can hurt your
Sure.
retirement, and that eventually affects you.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maybe your living habits, your sleeping habits. So
Yeah.
most of my clients or our clients we visit with, they like calm waters, smoother waters, not white caps.
Yeah.
They're not worried about hitting a home run. A single is just fine. But at the
Hmm.
end of the day, what fits you is what's important. It's not a matter of what fits somebody else.
Yeah. I think about the fact that, inflation, just look at what happened to us over the last 4 years, 5 years, and who could have predicted that? And people who were getting ready to go into retirement or who had just gotten into retirement, you've said it before, some of them were forced to have to actually back up and go back to work.
Yep, and still there's still financial planners out there that don't budget in inflation, which is a game changer. I don't know how you can't. It can change the whole outlook really, really quickly.
Hmm.
The team has always factor in inflation. Again, planning for the worst, using numbers that are above historical percentages, not because we're trying to make things look bad. Again, plan for the worst and hope and pray for the best. But inflation is a big one. Um, all of these expenses, understanding your costs, shopping things out. Surprises happen. Um, that's why it's so important to have an accurate budget. And if things change, have something flexible. We're altering and modify. I mentioned our process is, a discovery, getting to know, coming up with strategies, recommendations, and suggestion. If one chooses to have us work for them, then we implement the processes. But again, modifications and changes and updates as you navigate through life and get older and maybe run into some life hurdles or whatever it is, or maybe you win the lottery or all the good stuff that may go with it. I don't know. It's not just something that sits in stone. It's the retirement puzzle pieces, putting them all together, hoping that, again, that you have all the pieces to the same puzzle and you don't get to the end and you're missing two or three, because that's no fun. Again, simplifying the process, consolidating the process, educating along the way, not only to the new people we come across,
Mm.
but our clients will attest that we invite them out to our educational classes throughout the years, not just once years. Clients have been with us, and we invite them
Sure.
out because you can always learn something.
Absolutely. Well, and things are always changing, and
They
that's,
are.
and that's your job at Haven Financial Group to stay on top of those changes so that you can inform your clients on how those changes may affect them. Let me real quickly here go to the educational seminars. I know we talk about those pretty frequently, but share with our listeners some of them that might be coming up and how they can get involved.
Well, if you missed the truth about annuities, you missed a really good class. That'll be coming up probably later in the fourth quarter. I don't have the date set yet. Maximize Social Security and tax.
Mm.
Whether you have very little saved or not, everybody's going to have to look at Social Security. Make a good educational decision. Again, I understand the approach. I'm going to sock it to the government, and I'm going to turn it on early, and I'm going to get them. Okay, I understand. I understand the motivation by thinking that way, but it may not be the best decision for you, your spouse, or
Mhm.
family, for a variety of reasons, and that's why we'll talk through that. Great class. We also have Medicare Made Simple. Actually, that's going to be coming up in a few weeks. Check out the calendar. Not because Medicare is simple, but Glenn, it's an hour and a half class. By the way, all our classes have customized workbook that we've put together. There's no cost for any of them. There's a lot of good information inside those packets and in those workbooks. Good note tag, good. You walk away from those. We have a high percentage that we choose to come in and visit with us. No
Mhm.
cost, no commitment, no cost, no obligation. But we help a lot of people through that because they're getting what they're not getting from somewhere else. And that's the up to date education, somebody talking through things in a way that nobody's ever done before. And you know what? People like that.
Yeah,
The
they do.
relatability factor.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're not a stuffy environment. We're not, as long as I'm here, we're never going to be a stuffy. We're going to have as much fun with a subject matter that isn't necessarily exciting and fun, but what is fun is to have people smile and go, "This feels good here.
You
This
bet.
makes sense." And thank you so much. Just this last week, I had a couple. They go, "We have never felt good where we came from, but man, it sure feels good here." It's a familial type of setting with a very, very important topic, and that's retirement and all the topics that go with retirement.
Haven Financial Group, folks. That is the name of the company. You can go to havenfinancialgroup.com, learn more about some of those educational seminars that are free. Maybe that's the first step you need to take. Maybe you have a lot of questions about Social Security and you want to go attend one of those educational seminars, get to know members of the team, ask some questions, and then ultimately set up that appointment to come in and actually meet the team and talk one on one. When that phase comes about, that number is 612-504-8400, 612-504-8400. Please feel free to call Haven Financial Group today if you'd like to move ahead and set up one of those free consultations to talk about your plans for retirement. This has been incredibly informative, like always.
Kim, great to be with you. Go Vikings. We'll see you next week.
Investment advisory service is offered through Guardian Wealth Strategies, LLC. Haven Financial Group and Guardian Wealth Strategies, LLC are not affiliated companies. Investments involve risk and, unless otherwise stated, are not guaranteed. Please consult with a qualified financial advisor and/or tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed herein. and comments regarding safe and secure investments and guaranteed income streams only refer to fixed insurance products. They do not refer in any way to securities or investment advisory products. Fixed insurance and annuity product guarantees are subject to the claims paying ability of the issuing company.